Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome back once again to the Big Data Ecosystem. This is Eric Cavanaugh, and today we've got Mike Nakamura from Aviso. Very curious to look at this SaaS-based platform that looks quite interesting. So with that, Mike, take it away.
Thank you. Thank you. So again, everyone, thanks for taking the time. I'm Mike Nakamura. I run the field operations team here at Aviso, and I'll be taking you through a brief demo of the product today. Now, there are a number of things that the application can do and a number of things that I could show. What I'm going to do today is really show you the different parts of the application in the context of the business problems that we solve, okay? So really at Aviso here, there are three main business problems that we solve. One is enabling individuals and organizations to make accurate projections and set appropriate expectations in terms of revenue and bookings, okay? So this is applicable for multiple personas, you know, whether I'm a VP of sales and chief revenue officer and I'm giving my commit to the CEO or the CFO, I can know that I'm going to be able to make an accurate, unbiased, data-driven projection of where we're going to finish. Or if I'm a CFO and I'm giving guidance to my board, if I'm a private company, or Wall Street if I'm a public company, I know that there are serious ramifications in an inaccurate projection there, right? So I want to be able to give the right guidance and set the right expectations, okay? So Aviso will enable you to do that. The second thing is actionable insights. So we're going to make a prediction based on how the team is going to finish in bookings, but what can Aviso do to tell you how you can exceed that prediction? What changes in resource allocation or changes in focus can you make to actually exceed what we're predicting, and that's part of what we offer, and I'll show you that. And then the third is really accounting for risk. So anytime you look at a portfolio of sales opportunities, if you will, there are going to be larger opportunities that are going to have a large effect, whether they close or don't close, of how you're going to finish the quarter. This, of course, introduces risk, and we can show you how you can use Aviso to understand and account for that risk. So you can map out all possible scenarios or outcomes, okay? Now, with respect to the first point, really the expectation setting, what Aviso gives you, okay, at all levels of the organization, is Aviso gives you what we call the Aviso forecast, okay? Now, the Aviso forecast is a completely data-driven, unbiased prediction of where your team is going to finish the quarter from a bookings or revenue perspective. That has completely void of the human element, okay? So the way that we derive this forecast is we build a model, a predictive model that is customized to every single customer and organization that we work with that essentially looks at historical data. So typically we'll take 2 to 3 years of historical data, and from this data we'll distill a set of opportunity characteristics that are highly influential in determining whether a deal closes or doesn't close, right? We then use the nearest neighbor concept to compare all current opportunities that are in the pipeline to previous like or similar opportunities. And since we know what happened with the historical opportunities, we can start to make predictions on what will happen with all current opportunities that are in the pipeline. And that's how this forecast is derived. It's very much a bottoms-up approach. We score every deal individually, make a prediction, and then roll that prediction up to all levels of the organization. Okay, here you can see we're showing this right alongside what we've won to date. This is pulled right out of CRM. This is just the opportunities that we've closed up to this point in the quarter, and then we can even overlay it with the organization's quota. So this is customizable. You can have any fields that you want here. It's really up to you. And these hierarchies are also customizable. So you can, in this case here, we're looking at the sales team by geography. So we've got our North America team, our EMEA team, and so forth. We can also look at it by business unit, by product line, by deal type. However the customer wants to see this data, we can organize it for them, okay? Now, down here, what we're seeing is the same information, but we're seeing it in graphical format, okay? So the blue line represents the Aviso forecast. And again, the big value here is that we do give you a prediction on the first day of the quarter, okay? So this is not something where we have to get data as we go and we can make a prediction later. We can make a prediction on day one, and we'll also give you a variance, right? So remember, what you have to remember about predictive analytics is not an exact science. we're not going to get it down to the dollar and penny in terms of our prediction, but we will give you a safe range in terms of where you're going to end up. Okay, so as a chief revenue officer, as a VP of sales, I can take the forecast that's being rolled up to me, and as long as it falls in that safe range, I can feel comfortable that that number actually makes sense, right? Now, what we also do is we also paint what we call the expected realization line, and this is also painted on the first day of the quarter. So what this line represents is really the pace at which you should attain that bookings number, okay? So the Aviso number is where you're going to finish. The expected realization tells us where you should be at any given point in time in terms of bookings realization. And then, of course, this green line here represents what we've won to date. So this represents the actual attainment in real time. So as long as the bookings number, the bookings attainment is above the yellow line, the expected realization, you can assume that you're going to finish at least at the predicted number or ahead of the predicted number there. Okay. All right. Now, what's also nice is that there's a lot of detail, a lot of granular detail that's available at all levels. Again, as I mentioned, because we do a bottoms-up analysis of every deal, you can actually drill in and get some very detailed analysis on why things are changing. Okay. So now, let's say I have, a big dip or a big jump here in the Aviso forecast, and I want to get a better understanding of why, that big dip or that big spike is happening. I can actually drill into any 2 points in time, and I can get a detailed deal-by-deal analysis showing me exactly what's been upgraded and exactly what's been downgraded, okay? In this case here, I'm looking at downgraded deals, and I can actually see deal by deal what the contribution difference was for that deal over that point in time, what the Aviso score is. You can think of the Aviso score as a percentage chance that you have to close this deal. So if Aviso score of 52, we think based on the model that you have about a 52% chance to close that. And if it's been downgraded, what were the reasons, right? There could be several reasons. There could be, in this case, for this deal here, we had the stage go from stage 5 to stage 4. So the deal actually went backwards, which historically means that the deal has a much lower likelihood of closing, so we've downgraded that. Or deal velocity, meaning that not a lot's happening with the deal. This deal isn't moving as fast as other deals like it, again, using that nearest neighbor concept in the past. And so we're downgrading this because of that, okay? And at any time here, these are actionable links that you can use to actually click into CRM and get even more detail around the activity and what's been happening with the deal, with each individual deal here, okay? Now, in the spirit of accurate expectations, right, another thing to note is that Aviso is also valuable for all levels of a sales organization, okay? So I've been talking primarily to this point really around the executive level and setting accurate expectations with Wall Street and other executives. But as a frontline manager, I also want to use Aviso to analyze each of my reps individually and even each of my deals individually, so that when I'm rolling up a forecast and when I'm giving my commits to my management, I can be as accurate as possible with those commits, okay? So what you can see here is that Aviso not only gives you a number for the entire team, but it also gives you a number for every single sales rep in the organization, okay? So as a frontline manager managing this team of reps, I can look at what Aviso is forecasting for each individual sales rep, and I can look at that right alongside the rep's commit. Okay, now this is great because rolling up a forecast is typically a time-consuming and many times inaccurate process because it involves a lot of gut feel, a lot of the art of selling and qualifying, right? But now, as a manager, I can look at what Steve Calderon is committing, I can look at what Aviso thinks Steve Calderon is going to do, and then I can give my, what I would call the manager's call and override the commit and publish that up, to my upper management, right? So this is going to make it, one, easier for me to roll up a forecast, but also, two, make my forecast more accurate because I have this additional data point that Aviso is giving me, the data-driven, unbiased analysis. Okay. Okay, now the second business pain that we solve is really giving you those actionable insights. So you can think of the Aviso forecast as, in steady state, if the team keeps doing what it's doing today, this is where you're likely to end up. But what I get asked more often than not is, well, how can you tell me, what I can do? How can you give me some actionable information that I can use to then take actions to actually exceed where you're telling me I'm going to end up, right? So I want to optimize bookings based on the predictive analysis that you're giving me, okay? And again, because we do a bottoms-up scoring where we actually score each deal individually, we can tell you on a deal-by-deal level which deal is more likely to close and which deals are less likely to close, okay? So what we're looking at here is actually a heat map of every deal that I'm working on now on my particular sales team. The x-axis here represents the deal size. The y-axis here represents the Aviso score. So the higher the better on the Aviso score. It means the model feels like you have a better chance of closing that deal. And now you can actually compare deals and make decisions on where you're going to spend your resources and where you're going to focus your time, okay? And I'll take two deals into account here for this example. You can see here I've got this $1.8 million deal, right? Timothy Dyer is my sales rep. He's raving about this deal. He thinks it's good. He thinks we're going to close it, and it's a big deal, right? $1.8 million. But Aviso is telling me that we only have a 4% chance of closing that deal based on historical analysis, okay, or that nearest neighbor analysis. So, and I think that this is useful because as a manager, as a rep, we always get enamored with the big deals, and we always want to chase the big deals. But in this case here, Aviso is telling us don't go after this one. You don't have a good shot at winning it. But you can see over here, I've got another deal, again, much smaller, a little more than half the size, but a much higher chance of closing that, right? So now as a manager, managing both of these reps with these two different deals, I can now make decisions and I can decide, I want to send my CEO out to one of these accounts to meet with their CEO. I'm going to send him to the account that has the highest likelihood of closing, right? And so you get this independent data-driven analysis on a deal-by-deal basis that actually allows you to make better decisions to maximize the bookings outcome. Okay, and then the third thing I'm going to show is really around the risk. So, and this really is mainly focused on big deals in the portfolio. So anytime you have, anytime you have your portfolio of deals that you're managing in a given quarter, there's always going to be a certain percentage of those deals that are much higher than the average deal selling price, right? And so I call these swing deals. But the thing about these big deals is because they're 10 or 20 times the average selling price, the result of those deals could have a big effect on the ultimate bookings attainment, right? So you can think of it as a stock portfolio being overly invested in one or a few different stocks, right? So what you can do is you can actually run these scenarios, right? Because, if the deals close or don't close, again, that's going to have a big effect on where you're going to end up. So for your largest deals, you can run actually what we call these scenarios, and you can change the amounts and you can change the close or not close of these deals and see where you're going to end up in terms of the projection, right? So as an example, I've got this big deal with Gene Walters Marketplace here. It's a $9 million deal. Well, what if that deal doesn't come in, right? You can actually click into it and you can set that Aviso score to 0, which means the deal won't close. And you can see what happens to your forecast if that deal didn't close. Or, I have a couple other deals here. What if they close, but they close for more than I'm projecting? How does that affect my ultimate result? So you can actually go in here with your biggest deals. You can change these amounts. You can change the close percentages. You can run these scenarios, and then you can see based on what I've outlined here where I'm likely to end up. Okay, so you can see, am I going to end up higher? Am I going to end up lower? And am I still within range, right? So you can account for the risk, you can account for those swings and those big swing deals, and really run those different scenarios to help you understand what would happen if these certain things play out a certain way. Okay. Okay, so that concludes the Aviso demonstration. Thanks everyone for joining and listening, and have a great day.
All right, thank you so much. Robin, do you have any questions? I guess not. All right, I guess I have one quick question. You talked about risk. Is that typically a large use case for you guys?
It is, especially at the highest level. So if, again, if I'm the VP of sales or if I'm the CFO of a company, those big deals present risk, right? So again, it's kind of like, in your investment portfolio being overly invested in a single stock. If that stock does well, I'm going to do well, but if it does bad, if it does poorly, it's going to affect me in a big way negatively, right? So usually companies will use that on their biggest 5% of deals, and so it allows them to do that what if analysis. What if this closes? What if it doesn't close? What if it closes for more or less? To help them understand where they're going to end up if those scenarios play out, right? So really, it's all about understanding the risk, and then of course accounting for the risk, for those large deals in the portfolio.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Who's going?
I just have one question, and I'll forget it if I don't go quick. You call this an app, as opposed to a platform. Does that mean you are going in through the business as opposed to IT? Because it's still, I know that it is a service, but you still have to have all the connectors to the information upon which to make your analytics.
Yeah, so typically the buyer is someone in the business side, right? So if you look at who wants to get more accurate in terms of their projections, it's usually sales operations, or finance that would be the buyer of the product. However, you're right, IT is always involved because we do need connection to the CRM system, and that's usually someone, a lot of times these finance and sales departments will have their own IT staff, or that's someone in the general IT staff, or it's the CRM project lead or the product lead. So yes, they do have to be involved, but typically the buyers are on the business side.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Okay, this is just a kind of general question. I'm kind of interested because I like what you're doing. So, now clearly this technology applies to a large number of customers. But if you had a sector like the retail sector where you aren't doing, specific sizes of deals all the time, you're selling, stuff in small units. Does this technology, can you apply this technology also to that style of business?
Yeah, hi. This is Jeff here, and absolutely, this technology can be applied to any type of business. And what we talked about, is this concept of total revenue intelligence. So within a company's revenue stream, a revenue asset in this case of the demo was an opportunity, but a revenue stream in the case of a retailer would be a transaction or a customer, right? So those type of revenue assets also have a life to it. They have a probability to close and a probability to actually assign risk to. So the Aviso really framework can be applied to any type of business, and hopefully that does answer your question.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And I presume you have a range of customers across different business sectors that use the technology. Then is that correct?
Yeah, today, since we have just started our company, launching out of 2 years of R&D and stealth, we are primarily focused on companies in the technology space, but this includes a variety of technology companies, whether it's companies that do software or which are on the subscription side, or traditional software, or have highly dynamic kind of reseller channels. But we've also seen use cases with companies that operate in the kind of media space as well, so media sales, which have high volume of really transactions.
Okay, thanks.
Well, good deal. This has been very interesting stuff. Never a dull moment in the big data ecosystem. We've been talking to Aviso today. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Great job.
Thank you.
Okay, folks. Catch up to you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.
Guys, you still there?